All right, folks, let's have a little bit of fun this morning. Now, I know that over the last week, I have been a big proponent for talking about the fact that I do not like that Relic Delta is in Conquest right now. I did a Reddit post about it on Monday. I did a video about it on Tuesday. We talked about it in depth with Fat Phil and Kazgul on Wednesday. And it just so happens that yesterday, quite a few people sent me links to this video by Ahnald. And that's kind of how you know you've made it with the things that you have posted or said, is that when Ahnald spends 14 minutes talking about your Reddit post, well, let's be honest, 14-minute, 50-second video, which is really like 8 minutes of ads for different mobile games. But for the most part, the core of this video is breaking down the things that I've said. And I want to talk about a couple of those things and just, again, so that you guys see it.
Delta is ruining Conquest because there was a big post on Reddit the other day by one of the ancients, one of the elders of the Galaxy of Heroes community. Shout out to Egnards, a man.
That's right.
With
I don't know why I'm a cat,
this
but okay.
And as you can see, it just goes and it goes and it goes and it goes and it keeps on going and it keeps on going. And
that's enough on that, right? Because that's not why I'm here, is to have you sit here and watch Ahnald's video. You can do that on his own channel. But I do have a couple things to talk about because there are things that he brings up that we're missing the point. We're not understanding what the actual problem is. I have had so many people over the last week send me different videos, send me strategies and say, hey, well, you can get this evade feat, you can do this, you can do that. And that's not the point. That's not the purpose. That's not the reason why I'm not liking Relic Delta in Conquest. So let's get into a couple of those pain points. We're going to pop on over here.
Obviously, my opinion is the ultimate opinion. I don't know if anyone's ever had a better opinion than me. Let's be real. Again, look at me. This is someone who has seen it all in Galaxy of Heroes. But anyways, let's hold up on my opinion. The downside could be because you're killing off the enemy too quickly. Like, let's go ahead, hop over to Sector 2. Take a look at the feats. You need to evade 100 times. Well, there's kind of a problem. Well, in order to evade, you need to, well, let the enemy take a turn and let them hit you. The problem is, when you have the newly found power of Relic Delta on your side, well, you kind of knock them out a little too quickly. Well, then how are you going to evade if you're killing them off too quickly?
Now, I know that Ahnald talks about this a little bit later in the video, and he points out the way that he did this, and I did it in a very similar way to him, and we'll get to that in a second. But this is part of the point, is that because we're killing things too quickly, it is hard to do feats naturally. And the word naturally is really, really important here, right? It needs to do a lot of heavy lifting with the goal of the video and with the goal of what we're talking about. Yes, I'm aware of the feat data disk. Yes, I'm aware that the fact that that is something that you can do. But the reality is that CG knowingly took something that we were doing and said, hey, we're actually going to change the experience. And then we're going to give you this workaround. But in order to use this workaround, you actually have to either pay money or grind through 3 sectors of Conquest. And you need to spend your Conquest energy to use it. And if you want to use it in the best way possible, in most situations, you are now going to need to have unproductive battles. That's something that we've never had to do before. So this is essentially CG taking something small away from us. And I am aware, right? We're here and we go in. Oh, we've got an ad. What a surprise.
What's going on there?
So let's say I'm not surviving long enough to evade. There's a bunch of ways to get evade, right? You can do Grandmaster Yoda Foresight. You can do Qui-Gon Jinn Foresight. You might be able to, for example, use Darth Maul. But as you can see here, we're running into a problem where it looks like we're kind of winning a little too quickly. How am I supposed to evade if they're not really taking any turns? So you see where the problem comes in. And this is where Egnard's coming from. I think the solution is, you might not like this. So I think there's a few solutions to this. If you're having a hard time farming feats, because, well, now we have to compensate for the fact that we're killing a lot faster. So you need to imagine you have a baked in, weak spot data disk that I said, for example. Well, there's a few ways of going about it. I think number one, again, sucks in one way, it's good in another. It's great that it's going to be so much faster clearing through conquest. You're spending less time in battle with Relic Delta. I can't believe I'm actually defending Relic Delta for a moment here. The flip side of it is, you just need, I think, need to rethink how you go about things. So let's say, for example, and again, this is just one instance, you got to do the evade feat. So what you could maybe do is essentially do like stall teams that don't die, but they could just chill for.
Yes. So again, I am aware of this, but this is, Arnold, we're missing the point here, right? We're not specifically talking about just the evade feat. We're talking about all of the feats and the idea of conquest going forward. And this is where a lot of players are just not figuring out the problem. They're looking at this specific conquest cycle and saying, hey, man, this was really easy. And I understand. Here's the deal, right? If we look at my own conquest right over here, I have my red crate. It is now Friday. I did this yesterday morning at like 5 in the morning. I got my red crate. I did it. I've been Datacron farming. It wasn't hard for me either. I was able to go in and I was able to use those hard cheese teams that I've never had to use before. But then we start to think about conquest 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, when the game has evolved and we have built out higher relics on all of our teams, right? So right now, a lot of players maybe only have 2 or 3 Relic 10 characters. Maybe they have 30 or 40 Relic 9 characters. 9 months from now, we are going to be seeing players that have, 20 to 30 Relic 10 characters. We're going to be seeing players that have 70 to 100 different Relic 9 characters, and they're going to be finding it harder and harder to do these feats without those hard cheese teams. I am aware that the stall team exists. I understand that. But I'm looking at my own situation and I'm looking at my own roster and I'm saying, hey, you know what? Sector 1 Gungans, I have a Relic 10 Gungan team. And when I'm talking about doing something like bonus turns, which in the past you could get in 1 to 2 battles with Gungans, it is physically impossible for me to do that. And that's just bad game design. It is bad game design when you upgrade your team and now that team is no longer able to do something, or that team is too strong to be effective at doing something. It's kind of weird when somebody who maybe has Relic 7 Gungans is able to accomplish something that their Gungans do really well, way better than somebody that has Relic 10 Gungans. And you can say, Egnards, well, why don't you just use Darth Vader and Merciless Massacre? Why don't you just use Maul and his Anguish, or whatever the hell that move is called? Why don't you use Jedi Knight Cal Kestis with all of his bonus turns? And those are all viable solutions until you bring those specific characters up to Relic 9 or Relic 10. And you can say, man, those are not things that a lot of people are going to do. But I don't know where the game is going to be in 6 months. I don't know where the game is going to be in 9 months. When I talk about my Night Sisters, who are all Relic 9, right now in this conquest, they did things amazingly. I had the right data disks. I was able to move through the sectors. I was able to do what I needed to do. And hey, speaking of data disks, you ever nail the perfect setup? Everything's flowing, then one bad node just ruins the whole run? Yeah. Some systems just aren't optimized, but your real life setup, that's an easy fix. Tushy Bidet gives you a cleaner, smoother upgrade. No RNG, no setbacks, just reliable performance every time. Tushy Bidet, stay fresh, no RNG required. Back to the game though, when I talk about my Night Sisters who are Relic 9, they were doing really, really, really great at keeping Asajj alive, because Asajj is also a Night Sister. And because the sector feat of no attackers was not something that had to do with buffs or debuffs, they were highly effective in this conquest. But I know for a fact in the past, multiple times, we have had plague feats of having to do 200, 300 different plague in a sector. And that doesn't seem that hard at all until we are reminded that my Asajj Ventress down to 30% stamina was one tapping my opponents. And that's with no offense data discs on at all. my 30% stamina assage was one-tapping opponents, what put me in a position of now in the future, when that plague feat comes to the game, I am going to have a harder time getting that plague feat than players who have their Night Sisters at Relic 5 or Relic 6 or Relic 7. And we can do that with just about any team in the game. I have friends that have a Master Padawan they have a Padawan Obi-Wan at Relic 10 with that Omicron. And that Omicron was sold to us as this will save you time. But now, even so far as Sector 5, that character is essentially useless because even at lower staminas where the Omicron is still active, that player is having trouble with keeping this character from killing the enemies over and over and over again. In the past, for the last 4, maybe 5 years, I don't remember how long Conquest has been around, I've been able to get through Conquest relatively naturally without having to rely on these higher effort, no cheese teams. But at this point, I have to start relying on those things. The reality with this Conquest is that it's just easy feat wise. And we've had easy feat wise conquests in the past. And we're not a stranger to that. The Quad May Conquest was an incredibly easy one. I look at, I think it's Sector 2 here, where we have Stealth and Stun both together. Great. I throw R2D2 and I throw Maul together, Maul lead, and I hit play, and I watch that I'm getting 40 stealth and I'm getting 30 to 40 stuns in that one battle, and this is awesome. And I might even get some evades in there. But what about when I bring my Leia team to Relic 10 and now my R2D2 is Relic 10? What about those players who have Maul at Relic 10 because that just happens to be their favorite character? A lot of players have done that with their Relic 10s right now, is just taking characters that they have fun with and that they enjoy because they are favorite characters, and they've brought them to higher levels. Those players are going to be doing considerable amounts of damage with Relic Delta on, and those cheese strategies are not going to be as effective for them. And we can say that nobody has um, uh, Relic 10 right now, but in the future, in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months, in a year, we're going to see that change considerably, and we need to prepare for those things. We don't want to get complacent here and then a year from now go, hey, I'm having trouble. Well, too bad. It's not worth talking about now. It's been in the game for a while. Nobody cares about it. This is the time to get those changes to happen, right? Super important. Let's move on. Knocked out 12, 30, 1150.
The solution? I don't know if you guys are gonna like it. Let me go show you. This, where's it called? This one right here, this F-32-4, I can't read. I got my eyes covered, okay? Training droids, where it pretty much allows you to not kill the enemy. So the enemy just stays alive. They just kind of act like a punching bag, and you just kind of do whatever you gotta do. You can farm tenacity down, you can farm protection, disruption, whatever it might be. Or they survive long enough so they take a turn, try to hit you, causing evade situations. So I think maybe we got to lean into this a bit more.
Ahnald, you're a smart guy here, right? The feat training droids, it is a workaround. It is a band-aid. It is CG's way of saying, wait a second, Relic Delta is going to cause problems for people. Let's put this in the game and maybe it won't cause any issues. But the feat training droid disc does cause some issues. And I do understand that a lot of people are kind of okay with those issues, but I'm not necessarily okay with them, even if they are small things, because there are ways to make this feat training droid disc work without it being a nuisance. For the entirety of Conquest, I have never been in a situation where I have had to say, okay, just to farm things, I need to take data discs off and I need to put data discs on, and I need to waste my energy to do that. The other problem with the feat training droid disc is that because none of the enemies can die, I either have to take in an instant kill character. And if I take in an instant kill character, I have to micromanage that 10-minute battle talking about boss nodes, or I need to accept the fact that I am going to have an unproductive battle, right? If I am on a Datacron node, I need to get those feats done. In the past, you just keep hitting play and you go and you let things go for as long as you want. It doesn't matter if you get it in 2 battles, 5 battles, 10 battles, because you have productive battles on a data disk node. Now, with that training droid feat, I am saying to myself, you know what? I have to have battles where I am getting nothing. And that is a small slight to players. You might be like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to drop money on my datacrons. I'm going to do my 100s. I'm going to do my 200s. But for some players, this is an important detail that is so easy to fix. Take this feat training droid disc, for example. All they need to do is either put an instant kill that kills the enemy leader automatically in this training droid disc, maybe even making it take, all right, your team has to take 50 turns before that works, right? And that's like 3 minutes into the battle. But even doing something like that is going to allow us to not have to worry about those unproductive battles. It's that simple. It's that easy. It's that quick. Okay. And I understand players can say, well, what about survive feats or what about the bosses? This is going to invalidate the bosses. If you have the cooldown starting on cooldown and you make it like, hey, you got to take 50 turns, you are going to see that this is going to be very unlikely to cause people to beat bosses that they are unable to beat. But if you are worried about that, you can also just have a skill button with this feat training droid that turns off the data disk. Hey, you're in battle. You're about 3 minutes into the battle. You realize you've done what you need to do. Hit that button. All of the enemies can now die. You can still hit auto. The AI will never use that button, right? That's the solution right there where we don't have to worry about this. Ignoring the fact that because this is also a one blip disk, it does mean that you have to change out data disks. There's really no reason for it. Make it a zero blip data disk. Make it so that this disk is free to remove, to put on, whatever it is. Make it so that this, even if it's a band-aid, does not cause issues for players around the community. Because right now, what we are going to see as we move in further and further, and as CG makes conquest harder and harder, as they've done in the past, players are going to start to realize, hey, wait a second, I have to do this thing, I have to do that thing. Ignoring the fact that since this feat training droid disc came out 6 months ago, we have had an inordinate amount of players come to Reddit, to Discord, and to the EA forums to say, hey, why can't I kill my enemies? They haven't read their data disk. And I know we shouldn't treat players like they are special little snowflakes, right? Where they can do no wrong. But if players are not reading this disk and they're putting it on, and this is a pretty common problem, that means that even though this feels like a smart solution, it isn't exactly a smart solution. And speaking of smart solutions, I can calculate optimal teams in Conquest, but my job search is basically just clicking apply and hoping RNG is real. So I started using LinkedIn Jobs. Now I get matched to roles that actually fit what I do, not just what I wish I did after a good mod role. Less guessing, more landing. LinkedIn Jobs. Stop applying blind, start applying smart, right? We need to think about natural solutions to things that make sense, that funnel people into the game systems in a way where they don't have to question the things that they are doing. And that is what this feat training droid disc does for a lot of players. Now, players in the end game maybe know it, they read it, but there are players in the mid game and the early game who do get frustrated by these things. And like I said, there are solutions. This is not a hard problem to solve.
Longer because of evade. So for the most part, I hate to say it, I think this is the one time where I'm actually, I've been a fan. I feel like I've been consistent with Relic Delta and PvE. It's like, all right, that's fine. It's either net zero or net positive. It's the PvP aspect that I really, really have a strong dislike towards Relic Delta. It just kills competitive integrity, to fun, yada, yada, yada. It kills, I guess, the spirit of where Galaxy Heroes sort of.
Arnold, you're a smart guy. I know you're a smart guy. I've talked to you before in the past when it comes to the betas. We had minor conversations, small conversations. I know that you have this character that you play online, and that's completely fine, and I respect it. As a creator, you have gone above and beyond in the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes world, and I am walking specifically and literally because you exist, right? And because other big creators exist. You are the reason that a lot of people play this game or even have come back to this game because they quit and they keep watching you and they say, hey, whatever, Star Wars Galaxy Heroes is fine. I'm going back to it. I respect that. But I also know that you are a smart guy and that you see this a little bit more than it actually is. I am not saying that there aren't positives to Relic Delta in Conquest because there are. Survive feats are so damn easy right now. It is a beautiful thing. It is such a beautiful thing that I'm honestly worried that in the conquests leading up or in the future, that CG might walk some of those things back and make it harder. And then people are going to say, hey, wait a second, the positives are not as positive as they were before. The negatives are more noticeable, but now it is too late. But as it stands right now, those positives are relatively awesome. And I am not going to be somebody to diminish that. But the other reality is that the negatives don't need to exist. They don't have to be there. There are a lot of very reasonable solutions that can be put into Conquest to make it so that everybody wins without really affecting the bottom line of CG. And I know that that is something that you can appreciate. We've already talked about the feat disc and how you can change up that feat disc. Another idea here is that you can have a relic slider so that players can set the relic level of the characters with a minimum. So sector 1 minimum 4, sector 2 through 5 minimum 5. I can set that relic level up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever I want to do. And completely honestly, while some players might say, well, why would I ever want to do that? I can 100% see myself saying, you know what I want to do? I want to actually set all of my enemies to Relic 7 or to Relic 8 so that Relic Delta does still help me, but it doesn't hinder me at all. And then I can play my game in a more natural state. Because while I was able to get through Conquest much quicker this time, and full disclosure, I did a lot more refreshes specifically because I wanted to see what this conquest looked like. While I was able to do it in a quicker amount of time in a vacuum, I also had to spend a lot more effort. A lot more of my battles required my focus and my paying attention and my micromanaging versus the battles that I've done in the past. But let's cut past the shit, right? Arnold, again, you're a smart guy. You want to chat with me about this, reach out to me. We've talked about this in the past. You've told me, hit you up on Discord. I have never heard back. You want to have an intelligent conversation without the dancing, without the silliness, without pretending we're a cyclops and bouncing back and forth and it's me from the future. If you want to sit and be a part of the solution, have your people call my people. And full disclosure, my people is literally just me. And let's sit down like two adults and solve the problem and make the game better, right? Because that is what I do when it comes to the game. Yes, I write fancy posts. Yes, I write things that nobody wants to read, and I have learned to appreciate and I've learned to get that. But everything that I do is solution oriented. Everything that I do has a hey, here's what we can do to fix it and be better for everybody else. I'm not going to get on my chair and dance like a monkey and just complain about the game and the state that it currently is in. I am going to find a way to make it work, right? Because even though I am frustrated in Galactic Conquest and in this game, I am not as frustrated in my actual life. I've got counters for the game, synergy charts for the game, full optimization, and sometimes I still feel stuck. But because of that, that is where BetterHelp comes in. It connects you with licensed therapists online so you can actually talk things out instead of just overthinking the match in your head. BetterHelp, because not every problem has a perfect lineup.